श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। क्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्ये सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वर गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विशेषगुरोगिणां विदेहे सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। व्यासम् अष्टनप्तारं शक्ते पौत्रमकल्मषम्बराशरात्मं देहकदातं दुपहृतिम् नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरन् मोतं मूकं करोति वाचालं भङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिमित्कृपातमं वन्दे परमानन्दमारों नारायणं भरो व्यक्तादण्डवं व्यक्तसम्भवं डस्यान्तस्तु मे लोकाः सप्तद्वीपाशमेधिने पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणे स्वयं व्यासेन कृतां पुराणमरिणामध्ये महाभारतमुद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीमष्टादशाध्यायनं भात्वा मनसन्दुतं भगवद्गीते वेद्भेषिणी अवतीर्णश्च कालट्यां केदारेन्दरतश्चेदस्फीठप्रतिष्ठादा यदा चङ्गुरोगृह श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं महाभगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्. So previously we were looking at shlokas 10 onwards, where Krishna Bhagavan explains about what Prajapati said previously. Right? So Prajapati said that uh, after creating the creatures, after the creation made, the beings are created together with the yajna, with the sacrifice. Prajapati said, by this you multiply. This, let this be the yielder of your coveted desires and objects. Desired objects, let this be the path to that. Let this be the one that gives you that. So he said, Prajapati said that. And then we looked at in the 11th shloka where Devan Bhavayat देवान् भावयतानेन ते देवा भावयन्तु वः परस्परं भावयन्तः श्रेयः परमवाप्स्यतः. So you nourish the devatas and let devatas nourish you, nourishing one another. You shall attain the supreme good. That's what we looked at previously. So then Bhagavan explains the continuing that discussion. There are 4 shlokas related to this, what Prajapati has said. So the sacrifices, from those sacrifices, so that are obtained, not only the results in the other world, but also in this world. So that's what said in the next shloka, which we were looking at last time. So ishtan bhogan nivo deva dasyante yajnabhavitaha tairdattana prada yebhyo yo bhunkte stena evasaha. Being nourished by the sacrifices, the devatas will indeed give you the coveted enjoyments. He is certainly a thief who enjoys what has been given by them without offering this to them. So that's the meaning of this shloka. So now, if you look at the explanation, so Acharya here starts his explanation by saying, being nourished, that is, being satisfied by the sacrifices, the devatas will indeed give, they will distribute among you the coveted enjoyment, Ishtan Bhogan, the coveted enjoyment such as wife, children, cattle, and so on, they will give you that. Okay, so that's the first half of the shloka here. So the he is certainly, so the devatas will give or distribute to you the coveted enjoyable things such as animals, foods, gold, whatever, children and things like that, because they are pleased by the sacrifice, by the yajnas that you perform. And he is certainly a thief. Stena means a thief, a stealer of the wealth of devatas and others. So such person is called Stena. So he is certainly a thief who enjoys, who gratifies only his own body and organs with what is with what enjoyable things that have been given to him by the devatas without offering these to them, without repaying their debt. So the person is considered as a thief. So because devatas give these things to distribute among men, right? So distribute all these things to you, all these bhoga, all these enjoyments they will give. But since these enjoyable things are given to you by them, therefore, he who, without offering these to them, to the devatas, without pouring, for example, oblations to the devatas in the sacrifices, and enjoys uh, such a person who enjoys or gratifies his own body and organs, senses with the enjoyable things that has been given by the devatas, such a person is a thief. He is a stealer of the property of the devatas because not repaying the debt incurred by those devatas. So here we are, when we talk about the debt that's coming, so we look at three types of debts that everyone inherits, everyone comes up with, everyone has got. Those are the debt that comes to devatas, rishis, and pitrus. So devaruna, rishiruna, pitruruna. So these three things everyone has to pay back. So how do we pay devaruna back? That is through sacrifices. Okay, sacrifices means it does not have to be always have to be homas and things. It means the pujas, prayers, bhajan, whatever we do for the devatas. That is to devaruna. And then the second one is rishiruna. Rishiruna is cleared through study, through brahmacharya, through study of the Vedas and things, where who is eligible, and teaching, through teaching. Those who are eligible to teach, whose duty is to teach, they should teach. So that's how the Rishiruna is cleared. And then the Pitruruna is cleared through procreation, through having children. So that's how these three runas are paid. Unless one repays these debts, he incurs sins. So here in this shloka, again, we are looking at that devatas give you uh, give these enjoyments, these coveted enjoyments, and if you don't repay in back to them, such a person is a thief. So that's what being said. So now a question might come saying that whether we should give, again, going back to the previous shloka as well, where Deva, uh, uh, where we looked at Devan Bhavayata Nena Te Deva Bhavayantu Vaha. So you nourish the Devatas and let Devatas nourish you. So if you go back to that shloka as well, or here as well, so if you look at that, so it says that who should do first, whether we should do prayers first and Devatas give us what we want, or whether Devatas give first and then because they give, we nourish first. So who should start first? So the answer to that is we should start because devatas are already given us. So when we are born, all these things that we see, the panchabhutas, whatever we need, whether it is earth to give us the food, okay, or the agni or the air or water and all those things, light and all those things, that's already there. That's all given by the devatas. So when we are born itself, devatas have made sure that we have the things of enjoyment. So that's why it is our duty to perform these yajnas, the sacrifices, what we looked at previously, the rights and duties as said in the scriptures. So perform those things. That's our duty, and that's how we should do. If not, we'll incur sin. So now Bhagavan explains how to overcome these sins, how to uh, navigate this sins, perform the karmas, how to perform the karmas, and which does not incur the sins. He explains in this shloka. He explains that yajnashishtashinah santo muchyante sarvakilbishai bhunjate te thogam papa ye pacantyatma karanat. So by becoming the partakers of the reminders of the sacrifices, remnants of the sacrifices, they become freed from all the sins. But the unholy person who cooks for themselves, they incur sin. So that's the meaning of this shloka. If you look at Pratipadata, every word by word meaning, Yajnashishta means remnant, whatever that remains after the sacrifice. Okay, the remnants of the food offered in the sacrifice. Ashina means eaters. Santa means the saintly persons or the good people. Muchante means are released. Sarva means all kinds of. Kilbisha means from the sins. Bhunjate means enjoy. Te means they. Tu means but. Agham means sins. Papa means sinners. Ye means who. Pachanti means cook. That is cooking the food. And Atma Karanat means for their own sake, for their own self. So if we look at the details for this shloka or the further explanation for this shloka, it those again who are partakers of the remnants, whatever remaining of the sacrifices, who after making the offering to devatas and others are habituated to eat the remnants of the offerings. So that means those people who, first of all, who take only what is remains after offering the sacrifices, and who they are offering to devatas and others. And we will come to that others part a little bit later, whom they are offering. So those who are offering that, they are, and those remaining things are called amrita. Okay, I think we looked at in the Mahabharata Vanaparva as well, right? So, beginning of Vanaparva, where Yudhishthira was looking for food so he can feed the Brahmanas, he was in grief and he was explaining the importance of food. And he says that the one who eats Vighasa is regarded as eating Amrita, right? Yudhishthira says that. So Vighasa is the food that's left over after feeding everybody. Okay, so that's what Draupadi and Yudhishthira and Pandavas used to eat while they were spending, and even when they were in uh, Indraprastha as well, right? So first they used to feed everybody, including the servant. That's what Draupadi used to explain, right? When Satyabhama came to forest to visit Draupadi and the Pandavas, they had, where we looked at Sri Parva, where there we looked at the Sri Dharma Parva, right? So Draupadi explains the duties of the wife. There she explains that she used to feed everybody, all the Brahmanas, 10,000 plus Brahmanas, they used to eat in golden plates, and she used to serve all the servants of her maids, and everybody used to eat. And after that, she used to take her food, right? And even in while living in the forest as well, that's what she used to do. And that's why Yudhishthira here, we looked at Yudhishthira saying that that remaining food after serving everybody is called Vighasa. It is equal to, it is like eating the one who eats that is eating the Amrita itself. So here as well, similar to that, here Yajna Shesha, so Yajna Shishta, whatever that's left after the sacrifices, that is called Amrita, that by whoever takes that, that being, that Santa, that good person, become freed from all sins. Sarva Kilbisha. So Sarva Kilbisha. So he is become freed from all the sins. Those sins incurred through the five things that Shastras describes. Okay. So there are five things a Grihastha incurs every day, since five types of sins he every day incurs. Okay. So that's what Shastras say. So in all the Smritis and Puranas, Idyas, that it's again and again repeated. So those grahastha incurs those sins, but those sins are cleared by eating this yajnashishta. Okay, so by partaking that yajnashesha, whatever that's remaining after that sacrifices, offerings, that's what clears those sins. That's what that's. So what are these? Uh, so here we looked at offering to devatas and others. That's what I said. So what are those yajnas that mentioned here? So the Shastra says that there are 5 type of yajnas, and these 5 yajnas clear the sins occurring from 5 sins occurring by a grahastha. And Manusmriti, for example, says that panchasuna grahastasya chulli पेषण्युपस्करः खण्डनी चोद चोदकुम्भश्च बध्यते यास्तु वाहयन्. So for grahasthas, there are 5 slaughterhouses, 5 type of slaughters where he goes through killing. Okay, he kills 5 things. One is the oven or the earth where fire is ignited. Okay, for cooking, the grinding stone, the household implements, the mortar, pestle, water jar, and things like that. And then the broomstick, all those things like that. Through all those things, he kills various things. Okay, those are his slaughterhouses. So those are through those things he kills many things. Say, for example, if these days we all got gas stove or electric stove and things like that, so we may not see the small animals and things like that that's being killed. But if you go to olden days, when where they used to burn through uh, the stoves were made of burning of wood stoves, right? So in the wood stoves, you do cooking today, and then tomorrow before you do fire lit up, because those ashes were warm and things like that. Small animals used to go and take rest there because it is warm, or the wood itself you put in for burning that used to have ants and various other small creatures in it. So all those will get burnt. So those are the, and similarly pounding with the grinding machine and things like that, and the broomstick, all these will kill the animals, creatures, and those result in the uh, sins, different type of sins for grahasthas, they will incur. We may say that we don't have wooden stove today. We have electric stove, so I don't have those kind of problems, or I don't have a pot where I bring the water and things like that, where I might kill some creatures through that water, bringing that water and broomstick, or I might do all those kind of things. We may have different ways of killing things these days. Okay, there is always, so you may offer a flower to Bhagavan, but while picking that flower, you may injure something else. Okay, so there is always those kind of things. So the sins incurred by those activities a householder comes through. Again, Manusmriti says that tasam kramena sarvasam निष्कृत्यर्थम महर्षिभिः पंचकृपा महायज्ञाः pratyaham grahamedinam. So for the purpose of expiating all those in their course, the 5 great sacrifices, pancha mahayajna. Okay, so pancha shabda mahayajna. So that's what it says. So those 5 yajna sacrifices has been ordained by the great sages for the householders to be performed daily. So that's what one should perform, those 5 yajnas. So what are those yajnas? So again, the yajnas are stated as 5 yajnas have been stated as the offerings to devatas, pitrus, humans, and the creatures and the rishis. So it says as adhyapanam brahma yajna pitru yajnastu tarpanam homo daivo balir bhuto nriyajnoti atiti pujanam. So Adhyapanam. So Adhyapanam, this Manusmriti Shloka, some says Adhyayanam as well. So some consider this as Adhyayanam. So Adhyayanam or Adhyapanam, both similar. So Adhyapanam is teaching, Adhyayanam is study, but again, teaching includes study as well. So Adhyapanam, for example, Medhatiti in his Bhashya for Manusmriti, he says Adhyapanam is the right one because Adhyapanam includes Adhyayana as well, study as well. So through Adhyayana, one does the Brahma Yajna. And so through that, offering to Brahma. So one does sacrifices that the yajna is performed, and Pitru Yajnas to Tarpanam. So through Tarpanas, one does the Pitru Yajna. And Homo Devo. So by Homas, offering to Devatas. And Balir Bhuto. By offering Bali, one offers to all the elemental things. And by honoring the guests, one offers to men. So these are the 5 yajnas one should perform, and he who omits does not omit any of these sacrifices to the best of his capacity on any day, such a person does not become tainted by the sins of the slaughterhouses that's mentioned earlier, okay, in the Manusmriti. So the 5 slaughterhouses that we looked at, the 5 sins that one incurs as being a grahastha by living, those things will not be incurred by doing these 5 sacrifices. So the 5 sacrifices are again, so Brahma Yajna, so that is Adhyapanam, teaching, and then Tarpanam, offering to Pitrus, that is Pitru Yajna, and then Homa, that is offering to Devatas, and then Bali offering Bali to Bhutas, and then Atiti Pujanam. So guests Pujanam. So these 5 sacrifices, again, I'm just explaining a little bit more on these 5 sacrifices as this is linked to this shloka here. These 5 sacrifices, again, for example, in Medhatiti in his Bhashya, Manusmriti Bhashya, he explains that these 5 sacrifices are not to be performed simultaneously. Okay, you can't say that I performed all this in one go. Okay, all 5 has to be performed separately. So all these for because the occasion for all of them is not same, and a distinct occasion is mentioned for each of them. So Brahma Yajna Manusmriti teaching is different, Atiti Yajna feeding the guest is different, Deva Yajna performing Homa is sacrifice is different, and then Bhuta Bali is different, Pitru Tarpana is different, like this. So if the occasion for all those were one and the same, then even when the 3 or 4 of them is performed together, will be considered as not performed. That's what Medhatiti says in his Bhashya. So that's why one should perform all of them separately. And then again, Manusmriti, for example, explains that one should constantly be addicted to Vedic studies. One should constantly be addicted to offering to the Devatas, and so on. Manusmriti explains. So that means these are individually to be performed. All these 5 sacrifices to be individually performed. Now, if you look at these 5 sacrifices, 4 of them you can perform on your own. Okay, one should perform on our own. So teaching, sacrifice, performing Devata pujas, Bali, and Tarpana, one can perform. But the 5th one, the Atiti, is something dependent on having an Atiti. Okay, so if you don't have an Atiti, you can't perform that yajna. So that's why it is important to welcome the Atitis. Look for those Atitis in your home. So that's what again Medhatiti explains as part of his Bhashya to these Smriti shlokas. So he explains that again, who is Atiti? Atiti is the one who comes on his own accord, unexpectedly, not somebody you invited. Because if you go to these days, for example, any functions and things like that, all the stages, they explain all these respectable guests that have come here. Okay, the atitis that have come, they are not atitis, they are invited. Okay, They are not invited. The Atiti is the one who comes unexpectedly to the home. And again, Atiti, for example, Śāstra says that Atiti is the one who is Dura Dopagatam Shrantam Vishwadevam Upastidam Atithim Tam Vijaniyat Na Titihi Purvam Agatam. So the one who comes at a time of Vishwadeva sacrifice, Vishwadeva, from distance, he comes. So Dura, he comes from Dura, comes from distance. Shrantam, he is very tired, and as after his distance traveling, he is very tired. And he comes at Vishwadeva Upastidam. So just at the time of Vishwadeva sacrifice you're performing. So that is during noon time. Okay, not somebody coming in the morning. Okay, so it is not considered as Atiti, the one who comes at that time. And such a person is Atiti and Natiti. So he does not again, Natiti Purvam Agatam. He is not somebody who comes every day. Okay, and he is not somebody who stays more than a Titi. Okay, Atiti is the one who does not stay more than a Titi. So more than a day. So again, we say that we have Atitis in our home. Okay, they are staying here for a week, and that's not Atiti. Okay, Atiti is the one who comes at that particular time, and such a person, even if he is a thief, whether it's a chandala, whether it's an enemy, or whether it's a pitrugataka, so whether he's done harm to your family or your ancestors, such a person also should be welcomed at that time. That's what this Smriti is. So again, this is repeatedly this part of this Pancha Mahayajna and Pancha Patakas daily sins that accumulated is repeated in every Smriti, Gautama Smriti, Bodhana Smriti, Devala Smriti, Vishnu Smriti, Yajnavalka, Ashwalayana, Grihasutra, anything you look, it's there. Okay, it's stated there. For example, again, Bodhana says that there are 5 great sacrifices. These are great sacrificial sessions. The sacrifice to Devata, sacrifice to Pitru, sacrifice to elemental things, that is Bhutas. So Bhuta. Okay, so I haven't explained Bhuta. Bhuta, normally the word Bhuta means something evil spirit. Okay, in normal general. Bhuta here is not that. Bhuta is all the creatures that's there, whether it may be ant or a bird or a dog or a cow or whatever it is, that animals or anything that's there, all those things considered here. Okay, feeding them. So Bali, when you offer Bali, that means it is feeding them. Okay, so that's one of the sacrifices. So the Bali offering that's made to those elemental things, that's what it is. So the 5 sacrifices that's there. So that's why it is important. Before one eats, one has to offer the Bali. So one has to keep the food. Again, these are all things disappeared as the things become very modern. These days, those things disappear. But if you go back to villages and things, at least before they feed, they keep some food away. They keep either a plate full of food or at least a spoonful of food. They keep. Even in my home, we used to keep, and even now in some, I think my mom does that. So where a spoon of food is taken away and that then given to the cows and whatever, right? So that's how it is. Or if you do pujas and things, you might have seen priest taking a bit of food away after the naivedya. That's again Bali Visarjana, that's performed for the elemental things. So like that. So then the sacrifices to men, which is done through Atiti's feeding, and then sacrifices to Vedas is performed through recitation, learning, Swadhyaya, that is self-learning, self-study, and also teaching. So all these things one should perform day after day. Every day one should perform. That's what the Shastras say. So this is here in this shloka. So what Bhagavan is saying is, so Yajna Shishta. So coming back to the shloka, Bhagavad Gita, Yajna Shishta. So the whatever that one takes after offering. So after offering to devatas, after offering to those bhutas, after offering to the atithis. So whatever one takes, that person is eating the amrita and he becomes freed from all the kilbishas. He is freed from all the sins that incurred by those 5 things that a grahastha has to perform. So he is removed from all those things. But the unholy person, the papaha, the unholy person who are selfish, who cook for themselves, they, being themselves sinful, incur a sin. So that's this second half of the shloka, where it says that after, so previously Purvarda, first half of the shloka talks positively how to overcome those sins, and then this Uttararda here, second half of the shloka explains where the first half talks about positively about absence of sins and things like that. Bhagavan here explains the contrast. He states that those unholy ones who have incurred the sins on account of these household accessories like the grinder and which causes the killing of the insects and things like that, through those who have incurred sins and through the injuries inflicted inadvertently to those things, those people who cook only for themselves in the sense not giving to guests, devatas, bhutas, and things like that. Okay, for themselves, those who cook for themselves. When I say themselves, even if they give it to their own householders, that is the people living, their wife or children, that doesn't matter. Okay, it is this yajnas that's mentioned. Okay, deva yajna, bhuta yajna, atidhi. Okay, and Nara yajna. So those things. So one should, if uh, does not perform, if they cook for themselves by not offering the Vaishvadeva sacrifices and so on, they, that is, they means here those who do not offer those sacrifices, certainly the word here used is tu. Tu is the word that we see in the shloka. That means certainly. It is again used to emphasize the importance of this. Certainly, they certainly bhunjate, they suffer from agham, sin only. They certainly suffer from sin. So that's what it is saying. So thus by saying those unholy ones certainly suffer from sin, it is meant that while the sins incurred from the 5 household accessories, the 5 household activities, sins incurred from those indeed remains, that persists, they incur, these people who eat for themselves, cook for themselves, they incur sin in addition to that. Okay, by non-performance of these nitya karmas such as Vaishvadeva sacrifice and things like that. And this is again in accordance with the smritis as we looked at earlier in the Manusmriti and Vishnu Smriti and various other smritis. These 5 sins that occur, and those are cleared through these sacrifices. That's what said. And also, if you see in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, for example, where it says the same thing, this food that is eaten is the common food of all the eaters. He who monopolizes or adores this food is never free from evil. And for this, because this is the general food, the food that is there uh, is common to all. And but if one monopolizes that one who takes all that food, that person is never free from evil. That's what Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says. And also we see in Rigveda Samhita as well. In Rigveda and also Taittiriya Brahmana, we see a similar thing where it says that the person who eats the food, that heedless man who eats the food in vain, who again, I declare that it is tantamount to his death. That man cannot satisfy even Aryama, that is Surya, nor his own friend. the one who eats alone becomes only a sinner. That's what Rig Veda Samhita 10th says. And Taittiriya Brahmana as well, we see that similar statements. So this mention of the sacrifices to devatas, atithis, and bhutas is also suggestive that the 5 sacrifices, the 5 yajnas mentioned in the Smritis, as also the Nitya Karmas mentioned in the Vedas. So all of them is mentioned both in Vedas as well as in the Smritis. So the summary or in short, what Prajapati has said in the shlokas we looked at here in this Karma Yoga shlokas, 10th shlokas to 13th shloka, is that the Nitya Karmas must be performed by the one who is eligible for them. That's what has been said in these 4 shlokas. Actions are to be undertaken not only on the authority of the Prajapati has said, but also on the ground of their being the cause of the movement of the wheel of the world. So what Acharya here, Shankara Acharya says this, the wheel of this world should be set going. And it is not just that we should do this just because Prajapati has said, but also it is important for this world to keep moving. And because that's why Bhagavan explains in the next set of shlokas, next 3 shlokas, he explains how this wheel of this world keeps moving. So Acharya here explains that action is definitely the cause of the movement of the wheel of the world. Karma, kartavyam, jagat chakra, pravritti hetur he karma. So this is Jagat Chakra. So this wheel of this world keeps rotating through this karmas. How that is done, he explains that in the next shloka, which is the 14th shloka in this chapter, where Bhagavan explains that annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad annasambhavah yajnad bhavati parjanyo yajnah karma samudbhavah. So from food are born the creatures. The origin of the food is from rainfall, and rainfall originates from the sacrifice, and sacrifice is the cause of its origin. So that's the meaning of the shloka. Annat means from food, bhavanti means subsist, bhutani means living beings, parjanyat means from rain, anna means from food of food grains, sambhava means production, yajnat means from performance of the sacrifices, bhavanti means becomes possible, parjanya means rain, yajna means performance of sacrifices, karma means prescribed duties, rights and duties, samudbhava means born of. So looking at the details, how this shloka, explanations for this shloka it goes like this. It is a matter of direct perception that from food, anna, from annat, which is eaten and that food then gets transformed into blood and rethas and things like that, are born the creatures. So annad bhavanti bhutani. So from food, creatures are created. So here, anna is any food. It is not in southern India, anna means rice. Okay. But anna actually means any food that's anything that's any food is anna. So anna, so adyate atti cha bhutani tasmin annam uchyate. So this is Upanishad Vakya, where it says that first we eat it. So that's food. First we eat it and then it starts to eat it. That means it is the more you take, it becomes very troublesome for this body. Okay, so but the limited food is good. So that's what that shloka is trying to say. So what Shastra says is once this is a little bit long, so we probably have to come back this to next time. So when rainfall, so we looked at, for example, Atmas after leaving the Jivas coming back to earth for take new birth. How does it get into a mother's womb? Okay, Jiva gets into mother's womb. That's explained, like for example, through they fall from sky, they get into earth, through the rain they fall, and then they get into some of these plants. Okay, like they grow into plants, and then through those grains, man takes, and then through man, the Retas produce, that Retas enters woman's womb, and then the Jiva gets life there. Okay, so that's why it is explained that annad bhavanti bhutani. So from food, the creatures are born. Okay, so creatures birth is explained like that. So it is, otherwise it's become confusing how taking food creatures are born. The Shastras explains that the jiva inside inside this body comes through that food, through that grains. Okay, so that's one text, part text, and that's how it comes. We look at the more in detail on this shloka and the